From the moment that Adam and Eve chose to disobey the one law given to them by God, mankind has been incapable of freeing himself from his enslavement to sin and death. In 6 different instances throughout history, God would raise up a man to lead his people, and in every instance, that person eventually fell into sin, to be followed by the people of God, and eventually that led to some sort of physical enslavement or death. Adam and Eve sinned, which led to losing the glory of God. Later, mankind as a whole sinned, which brought about the global flood, which meant death for all life, with the exception of Noah and his family. God called Abraham out of the land of Chaldea, with the promise of a new land that he and his family would inherit. They did inherit this land, but again, only to eventually fall into idolatry and then slavery in Egypt. God called Moses to lead the people of Israel out of Egyptian slavery. And after 40 years in the desert, they re-inherited the promised land. But even after God raised up the kings David and Solomon, they again fell into idolatry over and over, and saw their nation split and be overthrown by their enemies. The land of northern Israel was enslaved by the Assyrians, and a few years later, the southern part of the country was enslaved by the Babylonians. Even after returning to their own land 70 years later, they still were not free, as they were enslaved by the Romans. With the arrival of the Messiah and his identification by John the Baptist, the people of God were still slaves to their enemies. Over these thousands of years, mankind has been incapable of freeing himself. The ultimate answer of God intervening on man's behalf became a reality in the incarnation.